is one of our downtown neighbors from from City Hall, the City of Jackson, and Treasurer Martin Griffin. Hi, Marty.
Hey, Bart, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Not bad. Glad to be here on Sherry Belkacek's birthday.
Yes.
The Queen of Harwood Street. So.
Exactly. I think there's probably going to be a parade later today.
Trooping of the colors. They do it in England. They might as well do it here.
Happy birthday, Sherry.
Yes, happy birthday, Sherry.
Yeah, Sherry, I know, a longtime friend of yours and mine. 29 again.
Wow.
Amazing. Speaking of numbers.
It just keeps sticking when it goes to flip.
Tax season. This year we didn't have all the extensions of COVID.
Right. And it actually went quite smoothly. We were pretty much finished with everything by the end of May, which is unusual. Usually it's well into June. There's a number of factors that played into that, but the biggest one being that your employer has to get you your W-2 by the end of January of the current year. Well, they have until the end of February to send that same data to us. But some of them turn it over right away. They send it electronically, and we import all of that into the computer, where when we go to input their tax form, that's all in there, and it's just like that. If it all matches, you just move on to the next one. Whereas we would enter all of that manually. So that has really sped up the process. And e-filing has helped. The biggest thing with e-filing is the cost. It's a little over $2 per return to the city for everyone that e-files. And depending on the program that is used, some of it is just all these numbers and data and code. And so if there's something missing, trying to find it could take you an hour, because that's all there is code. For those that generally don't have huge deductions or just have everything standard, it works out pretty well, because if your payroll office is doing their job, with the tables for withholding, generally a return would get $3 for each person you claim on the return. So if you've got 5 people, you should be getting a $15 refund. Obviously, that's in a perfect world, but a lot of people get more, some get less. It all just depends on their payroll office and how they withhold.
So as a percentage, how many would you say are e-filing city taxes?
Honestly, I don't know. We did over 400 and some batches. There's 25 to 35 returns in a batch. It's hard to say. I would have to ask Lisa that. Lisa Skalski does all of the importing of that data, Lisa and Julie, and the actual numbers. I would have to ask her, but that's a good question.
Yeah. Well, it's still...
And it has increased every year. But mainly, if you're using H&R Block or, what's the other one? TurboTax, those do not submit to us electronically.
No.
They don't submit to any cities electronically. And a lot of times, it'll spit it out and say, return this to the city with this voucher with your payment. A lot of people send the voucher, no payment, no tax return. So we get a lot of those, and it's the same with people that e-file. If they e-file and owe money, they don't send in the payment. So that's the types of things we're doing right now. We're doing compliance. And of course, we can't send out letters until the filing deadline, because they're not late until then. So we can't send out late letters. So we're in the process of, we do a couple hundred a day. So there are a lot of people that e-file, send everything in but the money. And then you get their CPAs calling and they're saying, well, I gave them the slip to send you the money. I'm like, they didn't. So
send the money first.
Yeah, well, and there are people that wait until the last day. Their voucher shows up, the check, and it's fine, and that's why we wait until then to
What
start
is the
doing
deadline?
It is always April 30th, unless that is a holiday or a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yeah. I was wondering, with the seemingly large number of work-from-homers, with the city, people are taxed at different rates based on whether they live or live and work, or work only in the city.
Right. And if you're a city resident, it doesn't matter where you work. If you live in the city and work in Timbuktu, your income is still taxable at the 1% rate. And we have a lot of trouble with that, and that's another area of compliance. The state of Michigan reports to us every year who has filed a tax return in Jackson. And of course, we cross-reference them by address, and they're not there, then we send them an invoice, give them the opportunity to file, give them the opportunity to ignore us. We've stepped up our enforcement of that. We're working with our legal department. We will be taking people to court, especially people that have ignored us year after year after year.
Can you seize us? You know, if
We
you
could.
look- IRS, people
We
are scared of
could,
that. Are they
but
scared of you?
No. We could. We can issue warrants, and we have done that before, where if you get pulled over or for speeding or anything, and they pull it up and you got a warrant, you get arrested, and that has happened. We could do that. There are a number of tools in our tool bag. You know, that's one we choose not to do, but if we're forced to, we will do that. And then getting back to the people that don't live in the city, they are taxed at 0.5%. And if they're working at home, they have to document it, and then that income isn't taxable. So, you know, you have all these people who are working hybrid schedules. They have to provide us documentation from their employer that says, you know, out of 260 work days in a year, because that's how many there are, this person only worked 50 in the city.
Oh my gosh. So you got to do all the math to figure
Well, most of them that, believe me, those that do the allocation know the game,
Okay.
and they have it down to a science. Some of them far more than a science. So yeah, they're not responsible, but some of them go above and beyond. Sometimes their documents don't even match what their employer sends us.
Uh-oh.
So
Do we have a lot of people who are working from home?
yeah, there are a good number of people. But again, you know, a lot of them also are city residents who are working from home, who think that because they're working from home, it's not taxable. And say, no, because you live in the city, it is. But it's hard to tell, and we probably won't know for another 2 years what that number is. And in fact, when they announced all the federal money that cities were getting, the ARPA funds or whatever, the state of Michigan Department of Treasury sent out a letter, you know, don't blow this money. Spend it wisely, because you're not going to know for 3 years what normal is. And you know, we're a year into that. So it's at least 2 more years before we know what our number of taxpayers are, how much we're going to collect, how much we're not going to collect. So it's, you know, it's a tightrope, but so far we're managing it over there.
Good. Not only income tax collection, part of your job, but property taxes.
Property taxes.
Those are due now.
That is correct. If you live in the city, if you're paying in full, they were due actually August 1st this year, because July 31st was a Sunday. You'd be surprised the number of people that will call and say, your form is wrong, it says it's due the 31st. And we said, yeah, well, those are pre-printed, and if it falls on a holiday, it's the next day. But in the city, we do give people the option, it's always been there, of making 5 installments. There's no service charge, no interest, no penalty, unless you don't make the payments on time. And the first one was due the 20th of July, because the bills went out July 1st, the 20th of July. Generally, in the first payment, we leave a 10-day window, because you don't know if they're going to come in on the last day of July and pay in full or what. But then it's a % for every month that it's late. So if you miss up until December, all of a sudden you're going to have 5-6% added to your tax bill.
At what point do you turn over someone's taxes to the county?
Every year on March 1st, we are required by state law to turn everything over to the county, unpaid. If someone has a $10 balance, we have to turn it over. Generally, it's not a $10 balance. We've got some that are landlocked parcels that we've been printing bills for 50 years, and there's no real ownership to, that are like 50 cents and $4. Those all get pulled. But you know, there's people that forget to make that last payment, and all of a sudden we're sending $175 over to the county, and then they want to run in and pay us. And we are not allowed to take any payments after the 28th of February, unless of course it's a Saturday or Sunday, and then we can collect them on the Monday. But yeah, so we're into tax season. seeing a lot of paying online now. Ideally, we would like to work that where there isn't the 3% charge, but we do have to recover, what the credit card company is charging us. And we did set out to try and find out a way, working with our bank, if there was a way we could do it for cheaper using them. But the biggest problem is that whoever collects it for you, they have to work with our tax software, the BSNA, which every city in the state uses. And unfortunately, the one we use is the only one that talks with them. So, and the thing is, when people get their bill, it will show up, the 3% will show up as a separate billing from the credit card company, and then the city charge will show up on there. We are working on it, trying to figure out a way to get around that, but we do have to recover that money, just like the IRS does.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
So there's another reason to pay your taxes if you want to do business with the city or work for the city.
Right. Every year, again, getting back to the compliance, once we've done all of our balancing from the income tax forms in that, then we go back in and we start at the top and we make sure that all city employees have filed and are paid if they owe, all elected officials, anybody that serves on a board or commission, and more importantly, anybody that's doing business with the city. If you come in and get a multi-million-dollar contract working inside the city, your employees are supposed to be paying tax on that. Their contracts specifically state that. So last week I went through and reviewed some of the contracts that had gone out this year already, and I had to send out 15 letters to companies that hadn't filed, hadn't even registered to withhold. So there's a lot of checking, but yeah, it's not real fun sending out letters to city employees saying, you need to file. And the thing is none of that leaves our department. I can't call a department head and say, hey, you got this person who didn't file. Because of the confidentiality and all the agreements we sign with the state of Michigan, the letter comes from me, goes to them, and then when people apply for a board or commission or want to buy property from the city, their last stop is to call me, and I'll say, well, let me see. You owe $600 and some for this, and we got some garbage cleanup and some mowing. You have to pay that first before you can buy the lot. And then we don't hear from them again. No, actually, but a lot of people, it has cleaned up a lot of that. But, it is in the charter. It has always been in the charter that you have to be in good standing with the city. And, we do enforce it, but we always start at home first.
All right. Makes sense. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, glad to have you. Or glad to be here, rather. On Sherry's birthday.
The city treasurer for the city of Jackson, Martin Griffin.